You've got so many different pots. What are they all used for?
It's nice to have a big selection though, because there's so many different things that we're growing, and you know, they all kind of tune to different sizes and different quantities that I sow. So I thought we'd just go through them all really, and I'll just kind of explain what we've got and what we use it for, kind of what the pros and cons are of all different ones.
Yeah.
And we'll start with my favourite, which is these. And these are kind of like a really tough, rigid, you know, you can't hardly bend them.
Flimsy at all.
So they're, you know, designed to, I don't know whether they'll last a lifetime, but you know, they'll last a decade or more probably.
Yeah.
And they've got these really big holes in the bottom there. And so that makes it really easy to just like stick your finger through
and pop it out.
Pop the individual modules out.
Yeah.
So these are really nice, and you can also use these and carry them around without needing to have a drip tray to put them in, although they still fit nicely in a standard drip tray. So I really like those, and you know, you can get those from Container Wise, and you can get them from Grow Seed and probably lots of other places as well.
Yeah.
So what do I grow in those? Well, everything I can get away with basically, because they're just
they're
my
your favourite.
And obviously they don't use very much compost, which is good. So lettuce, spinach, beetroot, all of those sorts of things, they all do really well. All the sort of onions, multi-sown onions, salad onions, all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
They all do great. Basically, pretty much anything that you're going to plant within 30 days does well in a tray like this, because there's enough compost in there.
Yeah.
There's enough food in that compost for 30 days. And there's enough compost in there as well to be able to keep on top of the watering.
Yeah.
So that's those.
That's a favourite.
Yeah, but I don't always need that many, so then I just use one of these. But I probably, for every one of those, every 10 of those I use one of these.
Okay.
Just occasionally, I only need 20.
Yeah.
And so I've just got a few of those, just for a few different things where I've got a smaller quantity.
Yeah.
So something like celery, for example, I don't need 40 celeries, I need 20 celeries or something like chard or something like that. So, and again, it's the same sort of criteria really. You know, if it's going to get planted within 20 days or it's going to get potted on, I'll use those. And the next one is the 12 cell tray.
So?
Yeah. So this is the one that I use for, again, things that probably are only going to be in here maybe for 3 weeks rather.
3 weeks.
So you could use that for sweet corn, you could use it for peas, those sorts of things. And you know, so slightly bigger plants than these, but again, things that you're going to plant really quickly. And then that's the kind of criteria really for how I decide going to the bigger sizes. So if you grab the 9 cell, which is just over there, for example, you know, this very similar sorts of plants for these two, but again, I could probably use peas in here as well, and beans. We've just done some runner beans, for example, in that 9 cell tray. And again, it's things that I'm only going to stay in here for sort of 3 weeks probably, and then get them planted on. And then we come to this one. I use these a lot.
Okay.
So I really like these for starting off new seedlings.
Yeah.
So I'll put a different variety in each one of these.
Yeah.
And then I'll prick them out.
Yeah.
And I'll probably prick them out into one of these trays, for example.
Right.
So if I'm doing, say, Brussels sprouts and kales and colettes, and cauliflowers and calabrese and purple sprouting broccoli, you know, all different ones in here.
Yeah.
And I'll prick them out. Or if I'm doing lettuces, lots of different varieties. I like to do loads of different varieties of things, and this makes it really cost effective.
Yeah.
The reason I like to prick them out and start them here is it just doesn't take very much space.
Yeah.
So I could have enough lettuce, for example, in one of these trays to fill 2 of these trays.
Yeah.
You know, so obviously a
For
lot of space saving going on there. And a lot of you know, since the start, early in the season, a lot of things under grow lights.
Yeah.
And so again, that is a very small amount of grow light space by comparison with all of that amount of grow light space, or windowsill space, or
that's a massive
polytunnel bench space.
Yeah.
So I also like to plant into these. So, for example, most of my tomatoes are pricked out into here. Peppers are pricked out into here. All the brassicas are pricked out into this size of tray.
Is that just to give them more space?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after about week, 10 days or something like that, they're ready for pricking out. Pop them in here. More space, more food.
Yeah.
Holds more water, so lasts longer. And generally speaking, it's 6 weeks, 6 to 7 weeks probably, in one of these trays.
Yeah.
And then at that time they'll either be planted or they'll be potted on.
Yeah.
So then we come to the next pots.
This one?
These 11 centimetre ones. And I like these because they just fit perfectly, again, in one of those trays.
Yeah.
And very rarely do I pot anything on into these.
Okay.
So it's only really if I can't plant them out when they're 6 weeks old.
Yeah.
So peppers, for example, which take longer than 6 weeks to get to planting time. Sometimes some of my squashes might take a little bit longer. Occasionally I might have some tomatoes that I can't plant out because I haven't got space or something like that, so I'll pot them on into here. But probably only 5% of stuff gets potted on into a big pot like this for me.
Okay.
So I think that is pretty much it, apart from the giant pots here.
These ones?
Yeah. And these very rarely get used.
Yeah, they look brand new.
Yeah, these, you know, I don't have too many of those. And these are really used in exceptional circumstances.
Yeah.
So if I want to do super early potatoes, I'll sometimes start a potato in here.
Yeah.
And then once the plant's sort of this sort of size, I'll transplant it into my main beds, and that gets me a sort of 4-week advantage in terms of time. And yeah, occasionally for like super early peppers, I might pot them into these and put them on the windowsill in these or something like that. But, you know, very rarely do I need anything as big as that.
Yeah.
And I just got one more thing, I think, there. So these containerized cells, you can buy this and you can use this side for making your depressions.
Oh, yeah.
And you can use that side for popping your cells out.
Right.
Now, I was actually given this, and I don't think I'd buy it because if you come close there, look, you can see those dowels are pretty small by comparison with the holes. So when you'd normally use your finger to pop those out, obviously your finger's about the same size as that hole, whereas those are really small. And so the guy that gave me this, he said that you've got to have quite a dry module in order for these not to push through into the actual soil itself. So that I like a wet the modules to be really wet before I plant them, not dry. So I don't think I'd use it for that reason. And the second reason I don't really do it is I don't generally pop everything out at the same time. So I'm normally sort of walking around holding this tray full of all the things that I want. You know, I've been popped a couple out here, and then just kind of popping them out as I need them, and just sort of pop them in. So I don't really normally sort of have the whole tray popped at one time. And because I often don't plant a whole tray at one time either. So that's one of the reasons. And the second reason is that is slightly too small. It's not quite deep enough for me. So I tend to go about fingernail depth when I'm sowing my seeds. And you can see this is a bit less than fingernail depth. And because that's actually resting on here, your compost would have to be really flush with the top there to get even a centimetre of depth there. So for me, you know, this might work for somebody, but it doesn't really work very well for me, I don't think. I might try actually making the sowing depressions using this.
Yeah, I was
deeper one
thinking
there.
that. Could you use the sewing depressions on that side instead?
And see how it goes.
Yeah.
But I think if you are doing a lot of trays,
yeah, could it increase?
you know, and in a big bed and you've got, you know, 20 trays or something, then that
saves
is
time,
probably
isn't it?
good.
Yeah.
But for me, for my sort of quantities, probably not.
Yeah. Okay, great. And what's this for?
So that's a drip tray, and there's kind of two types. Some people call them gravel trays, but obviously I never put gravel in mine. Basically, it's just that when you're watering here, any drips that drip through from the bottom of these get caught in here. Yeah. You can also water into here, and the plants will absorb the water through the bottom of these, through these big holes. But you can also get these with holes in them, so that if you're in a greenhouse or a polytunnel or something like that, then you can drip and the water doesn't accumulate in here and make the plants too soggy. Yeah. But since most of my sort of seed starting is done in the conservatory or on the windowsill at home, obviously I don't want drips coming out, so I want the ones without holes. Yeah. So I think that's it. That's all the pots I use and why I use them.